Go ahead. Continue.
Okay?
Yeah,
All right,
yeah, go
thank
ahead.
you.
Parents will do that.
So if you look at the process of you look at the process of understanding the basic Upadesha, the teaching of Vedanta, the word Viveka is very important. So this one we should really take it to heart. And what has to solve your life's problems ultimately and most importantly, is to both understand what Viveka means and to actually do the Viveka. This is the key. All other aspects of the study of Vedanta, including Ishvara and how the world works, your own ideas about your life, sadhanas, then sukha dukkha, and likes and dislikes. All of those kinds of things are supportive of ultimately doing viveka. This is what we have to do. And it also, you can express it as atma vichara, thinking about the atma. So without the atma vichara, which is of the nature of viveka, we are not going to be free. And even in Kathopanishad, this is a very important verse which says, Nahi bahuta shrutena labhyaha. By attending classes and by studying, by doing chanting, by having the right kind of attitudes, karma yoga also, all of that, all should lead to the door that you have to pass through at the end of that whole thing. Everything else really is kind of like leading up to the viveka. So until you do the viveka, you're not going to fulfill the promise of this teaching. Okay? So now, interestingly enough, if you remember the few verses that we were doing before, which is the simile of an insect which is caught in a whirlpool. So we explained that really our lives are also very much like that we are going in a circular fashion, and the change of scenery, which starts with the death of the body, is just going from one whirlpool to the other. And this is never going to end. Never going to end until the teaching gets hold of you and the teaching takes some daya, some affection for us. And we take the affection towards. So both of them have to see each other. So in the case of the simile of the river, it's possible that you may have several insects that are going around. How is it that this person picks out one of the insects to take it out to the river and put it on the shade of a tree? Because there are lots of other insects. So, and here the insect is totally helpless, cannot really do anything. So this mutual connection between a jiva that is caught in this life's whirlpool and a teacher that looks towards a student and picks out the student and lifts the student away from this whirlpool. How does it happen? So this is what is called, we saw that already, and this was Satkarma Paripakat, number 31. Satkarma Paripakat. This means when the time for you to do this is for you to be lifted out, then it will happen. It will happen. Somehow or the other, the Guru seeks you out, and you seek out the Guru, and the together of them, it can be done. It can happen. And everybody will go through that sooner or later. But for those of us that have had an introduction to this amazing vidya, knowledge, our time has come. And the time has started. That's it. It hasn't ended yet, but it has started. The whole process has started. So in doing so, now Swami Vidyaranya makes an interesting point. He says, in number 32, Upadesham avapyam acharya tattvadarshinaha panchakosha vivekena labhante nirvrittim param. So this is an important thing. As you know, this chapter is, I've been saying this, is an advanced introduction. So it's an introduction in the sense that we're going to go through from the entire process from A to Z, exactly how it happens. But then it is not just introducing some terms, we are actually going to some depth. Not as much depth as in Upanishads, but some depth of that will be given. So observe this. What Swami Vidyaranya ji is saying is that the way the Guru lifts the person out of this circular motion of life, the rut that we are in, the way to do that is Panchakosha Vivekena. This is what delivers the good. So here, one other commentary on this. So if you look at the method of the basic and the important and the summarized method of teaching, which is very important for us to know, there are 2 or 3 of them. And 2 of the most important ones, this is what is called prakriya. The word prakriya is used. So prakriya means a method of unfolding. So the 2 important prakriyas are Panchakosha Viveka and Avasthatraya Viveka. Panchakosha Viveka and Avasthatraya Viveka. So the Panchakosha Viveka is given in great detail. These are the 2 important methods. It's kind of like, very interesting. I was just thinking about it when I was getting ready for this class. Like a person says, okay, this poor insect is going round and round. Let me take him out. So there are a couple of methods of taking him out. If he's very close to the surface, he can just take his hand out and put it there. But it's very possible that the insect may be poisonous or something like this. So generally speaking, they will pluck a leaf out of the tree and then take it out. In any case, there are a couple of methods of taking the insect out of the whirlpool onto the shade of the tree. Here, the 2 main methods of taking us out of the whirlpool are Panchakosha Viveka and Avasthatraya Viveka. And both are going to be discussed here. And both are going to be presented with some commentary, so we have a little depth about what does it mean, and we'll start that today itself. But if you want to get even more depth, then On the Panchakosha Viveka, it is best done, of course, at various places in the Upanishad, but in Taittiriya Upanishad, the Panchakosha Viveka is highlighted the best of them. And the Avasthatraya Viveka is best done in Mandukya Upanishad, which we are studying. But in any case, I just want to give you the fact that really the method of delivering the goods, there are two methods. And we need to completely understand it and then eventually employ it in our life. So this word viveka is most important because the word viveka means discrimination. So the word viveka is a subset of vichara. Discrimination is a subset of general thinking. So the general thinking means that you have a complicated set of things that you're analyzing. You know, like this, whether we should terminate the contract with Iran. But there is a lot of general thinking going on. Is it good for, should we do it, should not we do it? Whatever Trump decided to do is another matter. But just like any other general, just like if supposing you have a child that is going to college and you get more than one admission, which is so fascinating. It just occurred to me. So I have a handyman from Mexico who's been with me for, I tell you, I'm so blessed. I have three or four people that are so helpful to us over the years. I have a gardener, then we have this cleaning lady, and then this handyman. Ishvara has sent them. I have a big house with a lot of different things that I have to be taken. I won't have any time for, you'll have to move, except for these three individuals. Amazing. And so this Ezekiel, I found him, he was working for a contractor, and I have known this contractor for like 15, 16 years. The poor contractor had a very severe advanced stage of cancer, and he died. But then I took kindly to this gentleman, and he used to charge $20 an hour, then we kept raising him, and so on and so forth. Remarkable person. Do you know he and his wife have 5 sons? 5 sons, 18 and lower, and younger. And a couple of days ago, he called me and said, I want my son to come and invite you for his graduation. So I said, fine, come. So this is the first time we have seen all 5 of them. And it was an interesting story. So they had the first child, which is a son. Then he told his wife, okay, we'll one more. She said, okay, one more, especially if it's a girl, then we are done. There was another boy. So then after that, she says, no, I want a girl. So she went for a third one. Then he said, this is enough. 3 is enough. I don't make that much money, and so on. Somehow she convinced him. They had the 4th one, another boy. And then somehow the other, he said, the 5 boys. And the youngest one is 5 years old, so cute. I cannot believe what a wonderful visit we had. Anyway, the reason I'm saying this is that the oldest boy, they're very modest people. They don't make much money at all. She doesn't work at all, only he works. I don't know how you do that. So he goes to Palo Alto High. And he's a good student. I've known him for a number of years. He was telling me, phenomenal. So my wife was asking him, so he's accepted college, some college in Southern California. And so we asked, who else did you apply to? He said, I applied to 15 colleges and I got accepted in 11 of them. Imagine. So what a choice that he has. It's so wonderful to see. Anyway, so coming back to the topic at hand, we have a number of choices that we can do, but the 2 most important things. So the general vichara is just an approach to life. But what we need to do is to take a subset called viveka. And why we need to do that is, and this is the very reason why Atma Vichara is so difficult to do. You need a special tool to be able to do Viveka. And the reason for that, we've already discussed that, is that when the two elements are very close to each other, and they are usually found not separate from each other, then it requires a high degree of intelligence to separate them. And we will see why that is the case in the case of the Atma. So I gave you this example that in the Pancha Mahabhutas, the two elements that are the most difficult to separate are space and air. Very difficult to separate. I mean, difficult in the sense you have to grow up to a point. You ask a child that, 7, 8, even 10, 12 years old or something, that to separate the air and the space look all mixed up. It's the same thing. But really, just even though the viveka is very small, the results of the viveka are enormous. So, for example, in the case of the akasha and vayu, the space and the air, it is an enormous difference. Akasha is the subtlest of the creations by Ishvara, subtlest. Akasha means also time and space both. And they have such power, which I didn't even realize until I started to think about it and get more instructions from others and so on. Even when I was studying in the ashram with Swami Dayanandji, it wasn't very clear to me. Akasha looks kind of like, it's just sitting there doing nothing. No. Akasha is very subtle and very powerful. In fact, it has the ability to have all the strong and weak forces inside of it. And it wasn't really until I started to study Einstein that I began to become aware of what is the case. And it is limitless. And the variations of power in the space, we don't know where it is. Gravitational forces, strong forces, weak forces, the ability to transmit electromagnetic waves, the ability to transmit sound. It's all in the akasha. It's not in the air. It's all in the akasha. Very powerful. And then you have air, which has more presence. You can touch it. You can feel it. And it also gets polluted. And it also imparts color to the akasha, but it's very limited. So, this discrimination between akasha and vayu results in an enormously different paths. So also, the ultimate viveka that we need to do, we need to be ready for and to be deserving of, that's the word I was looking for, is the discrimination between myself as a Paramatma Sakshi akin to the space and myself as a Jivatma akin to the air. And the two of them are all mixed up together. The Sakshi which is formless, like the Akasha, and the Jivatma. You can even say Paramatma versus Jivatma. Those are just words, but the main thing is the understanding. And so the Paramatma is all-pervasive, formless, and most importantly is Paramarthika Satta, Satsvarupaha. In the third verse of the Dakshinamurti Stotram, Yasya Sphuranam Sadatmakam. It is the very nature of Sat, never absent, never absent. And under no conditions is it absent. This is what we have to understand and grapple with. And on one hand, and then you have the Jivatma that looks like Paramatma. You see, the air looks like space because it is colorless. At least in its, right now it looks, there is air, but there's no color to it. There's no pollution right now. So it looks very much like Akasha. And yet, it is very different. And if we do the Viveka so, if we do the Viveka between Paramatma and Jivatma, even a little bit, the results are enormous, amazing. But we must do this. We must do the Viveka. These are not just words sitting in a book. We have to, see, this is the thing, if we are not ready, then I don't see it. My mind just glosses over it. My mind glosses over it. And the result of glossing over it and my not catching it means that I'm not free. I recall this, I still remember we were all very, at the end of our PRC course. I think I've said this before also, just to, it may be repetitive. But at the end of the course, I think both collectively and personally, I remember talking to Swami Dayanandji many times because I had occasion to drive him here and there and all kinds of things. So I'd spent a lot of time with him. So I would ask him, Swamiji, what more do I need to do? Because I don't feel I'm done yet, and yet you've taught me some wonderful things, but I'm not sure what else I'm supposed to do. And his answer to all of them, it was, remove your doubts. And the interesting thing is that I didn't feel I had any doubts. I thought I understood the whole thing. But if you don't feel the freedom, that means that you have doubts. What's keeping you from is the doubt. And so the reason I'm saying that is if the Viveka is not clear, then we gloss over it. Because the phenomena is that your mind says, well, it looks interesting, but we'll have to study this later. Doubts remain. We have to do this, Viveka. Why is it that I don't understand? And you have to really, through a series of readings, rereadings, meditation, living it, all of those kinds of things, you have to be accomplished in this Viveka. And as I think I mentioned to you last week, I think I did, is that Swami Maheshananji points this out. He says, when you have something which is pratyaksha means that it's right in front of you and it doesn't need any introduction, then you get it right away. But if it is paroksha, then to make it pratyaksha or aparoksha, right? I went over this last week, isn't it, in this class? Okay. So to make it aparoksha and or pratyaksha, one or the other, the first thing that has to happen is some words have to be used. This is the normal, even if it is not the Atma, supposing you are talking about something which is not known to you as an experience, but somebody can tell you about the experience. You know, the typical thing is going to a new vacation spot. I still remember I was working for HP, and one of my colleagues, a woman, she was absent for quite a while. And so I asked her, "Where did you guys go?" She says, "Oh, we were house in Belize." I says, "Belize? Where is that?" She says, "You don't know Belize?" I said, "No." She says, "Have you been to Hawaii?" I said, "Yes." She says, "This is better than Hawaii." And it's somewhere in, I don't know whether it's in North America or South America, somewhere south of the border. Huh? South America? Central America? She knows everything. She's an expert. We just ask her. I know. So she will introduce you. If she were to have, if I give her some time, she'll say, it's in Central America, population of 10,000, and this, that, or the other. And you paint a picture like this colleague of mine did. She said, "Oh my God, it is the best thing." And then easy to get to by plane, this, that, or the other. So this is what is called Shabda Jnana. This is the understanding. Because by that, you have a picture of this place. An imperfect picture, but a picture. And if it is has some brochures, you can see some brochures and internet or whatever, you can see the pictures. But then it is not until you get there do you actually experience Belize. Similarly, in the case of the Atma is never away from you. So it's a very peculiar situation. It is never away from you, and yet it is not known. This is a most amazing thing which is due to Maya Shakti. How you can be hidden from yourself is unbelievable. But it is true. And this bringing of the clarity of the Atma, which is paroksha at this point. It is interesting. I was just reading this commentary on this particular verse. So I was going to cover it later on, but I'll do that right now. So Swamiji says that there was a very important Vedanta teacher by the name of Ramatirtha. Ramatirtha. I think he was born earlier in the 20th century. I'm not quite sure. I read about him one time. But a very accomplished person and so on. And he was one of the people that would, just like Vivekananda, he would go outside of India. Now everybody comes here, but in those days that wasn't the case. So he went out somewhere. And he was known, as Swamiji says, for making outlandish statements that captures people's imagination. So he decided to run an ad in the local newspaper. And the ad said, if you want to meet God, then come to the lecture tomorrow. I'll show it to you. I'll show you God. So there was a guy, this is all true story, there was a guy who said, listen, this is a tall, claim. If you don't show me God, I'm going to write a description that this guy is absolute falsehood. Okay, is that clear? He says, yes, yeah, you come tomorrow, I'll show you God. So he came. So then he said, by the way, here's our tradition. When a person approaches someone to find out about God or others, you have to describe yourself. So he says, I'm so many years old and I'm this, that, or the other. And, he described some things. I'm a lawyer, whatever, and so on and so forth. Then he says, okay, that's tradition number one. The tradition number two is you have to bend down and do namaskar to the person who is showing you God. So he says, okay. So he bent down like this. So Ramatirtha gave him a big jumper on the back, and he fell down. With some force. So the person says, what the heck is going on? What are you doing? And so Ramatirtha said, listen, this is what I was showing you. And I wanted to tell you where you are. And so where did I hit you? He says, you hit me on the back and I'm still reeling from the pain and so on. But my pain and suffering is inside me. So he says, where? He says, I don't know. It's in my mind somewhere. So he says, how do you know? He says, well, I know it. He says, where is that person who knows it? He says, I've heard of this thing called Atma, but I don't know where it is. He says, when you find out where you are, who you are, you will find God inside of you. So he told him that you have to understand yourself. Who is this Atma? So he says, I can understand where the pain hit me, the body. And I understand that the anguish you have caused me, I understand that it's right here somewhere. But I don't know where I am. He says, that's exactly the point. You don't know where you are. And so he says, when you learn, and you have to study with me, then I'll show you God. So that's how he proceeded to do so. So anyway, those are the methods for the viveka. The second viveka, which is very similar to this, is avasthatraya viveka. This we will do in verse number, I think, 40 or something like this, and I won't get into it. So that we will do later. But anyway, to close off that topic, just to summarize it, please take it from me, from my experience and so on. All said and done, what delivers the good is viveka. Between the sakshi and the reflection of the sakshi, which is you, the person. This is what we have to do. And so this is the culmination of the whole study. So now we can say that, as Swami Vidyaranya very correctly pointed out, he says this in number 32, Upadesham avapyam acharyas tattvadarshinaha panchakosha vivekena labante nirvritim param. By doing panchakosha viveka. So this is most important in the entire annals of Vedanta. Panchakosha viveka as the prakriya, or avasthatraya viveka. Both of them lead to the same thing. And both should be done, not just one. Both should be done as a reinforcing viveka. Anyway, that's just the ad for the word viveka. Discrimination. Why? Because just a small error makes an enormous difference in distinguishing air from space. Has enormous implications. Similarly, the Paramatma and Jivatma look alike. Enormous differences, if you can see that. Absolutely amazing. And what happens is that your mind rebuts it. He says, no, this is me. I don't understand what Parameshwara you're talking about. And it is not. And this is where the purity of the mind, antakarana shuddhi comes in. Purity of the mind has to be done in such a, without that it is not possible. You can do any kind of study, any kind of meditation, pujas, prayers, anything, but ultimately the door that you have to pass through is viveka. This is how important it is. Anyway, so now we start on the Panchakosha Viveka. So we already started that last week, number 33. So here the Panchakosha, these the 5 sheaths. So the word kosha means a covering of kinds, one that covers. The one that covers means that unlike the physical covering, these are points where we get hung upon. We get hung upon. In other words, we cannot cross it because we are hung upon it. So here I'll digress for just a second and give you another interesting. This actually comes in the 6th chapter of the Panchadashi, different book, second book, and in the Tripti Deepa Prakaranam, which I'm studying, and 200, almost like 300 verses. And so there, Swami Maheswaranji makes a beautiful point. In fact, based on the verses from Swami Vidyaranya. So, in one of the verses, it ends with, one verse ends with Abhimanyate. The Sanskrit is Abhimanyate, is what Swami Vidyaranya's verse is. The next verse is Buddhyate, which was there also. Here, Buddhyate means when he is awakened. Okay? This is a very interesting thing. Swami Maheswaranji pointed this out. Phenomenal thing. He said, here's the thing what happens. Abhimanyate means Abhimanam kurute. You identify with something. Totally identify. Totally identify. Not just, occasionally. It's kind of like, when if you are born as a Brahmana in India, then you identify by being a Brahmana. And there is no such thing as a Brahmana. It is just that you were born in a family that called itself Brahmana, which is born out of a family where it called itself. So it goes back all the way. And this is imposed on you. Your mother and father says, hey, do you know you are a Brahmana? The baby says, I don't know what that means. What does it mean? He says, no, this is a very important thing. You are the best amongst all the Varnas. So the guy says, okay, all right, whatever. And here it's very interesting that in the Swami Maheswaranji, this is not the example I wanted to give, but I'll another example on top of that. He says, how you identify with being a Brahmana has changed over the years. Because there used to be a time, and probably still is, that if a non-Brahmana touches him, he has to take a bath. He has to take a bath. It's very much like, supposing we used to have, when I was growing up in Amritsar, so there used to be these women who would take all the excrement out and so on and so forth. It's just amazing. And if she was not supposed to touch anything in the kitchen, and for a good measure, because, she's touching dirt and so on. So my grandmother would be very careful that who enters my kitchen is very important. And you cannot be wearing shoes when you enter the kitchen, because all of a sudden the floor. And if this woman came in, oh my gosh, you have to throw away all the food. So in the old days, the Brahmanas used to feel that if a non-Brahmana touches me, I have to take a shower. Those days are gone, pretty much. Nowadays, they are told greater than a Brahmana is you are a human being. There is nothing like the family of human beings. So find somebody and embrace him. Forget about touching him or anything like that. So what it means is that the abhimana has changed. Nothing else has changed, but abhimana has changed. Now I go back to the original example. Swamiji says, so listen to this carefully, it's very interesting. Swamiji says that occasionally I would give, this is an example of avasthatraya, the three states of experience. So Jagrat avastha, Swapna avastha, and Sushupti avastha. So he says, occasionally I will give a discourse, and somebody will come up to me and he says, Swamiji, why do you talk about sleep and so on and so forth? I don't understand it. So Swamiji says, why? Because you have to understand to discriminate between the various things. He says, no, but I don't understand this at all. You talk about the Jagrat Avastha, that is the one that I'm really interested in. How do I get out of the problems of Jagrat Avastha? Why do you keep talking about the other Avasthas? So here the conclusion was, look at the conclusion by Swamiji. How he dealt with him, I don't know. He didn't even go into that. But he says, here's the situation. The fellow has been attending my classes, and I keep telling him that the three states of experiences are temporary. You are the reality, which goes into, this is kind of like acting in three movies. So you act in this movie, you act in that movie, you act in that movie. He's been listening to all this completely, and he's nodding his head. Then at the end of the class, he says, why do you keep talking about sleep and dream? Just talk about avastha. You know what is the reason? Abhimanyante. He says this abhimana, his sense of identification, is so much with Jagrat Avastha. In spite of understanding what would be called a theory about it, but his abhimana is all with Jagrat Avastha. And so this comes from a rajasic thinking. A rajas that, I want to accomplish things. Tell me how to do it. Don't forget about this sleep avastha and so on. But when the sattvic avastha takes place, then the mind becomes receptive. It says, oh, interesting. You may have some doubts about it, how to clarify, which is what we are going to do, but at least you are receptive. You are not hung up. So the abhimana manyante, in this 6th chapter, he makes a beautiful commentary out of this. So look at this. This is the difference between jnanam and prajnanam, or paroksha jnanam and aparoksha jnanam, or as the people say, theoretical versus practical. It is not theoretical versus practical. It is, despite the truth being given, you are unable to get out of the identification with one of the states. Very interestingly, something else came to me in my mind. It's kind of like, that this just happened recently. So one of our family visitors, we had a big family gathering on the 90th birthday of my mother-in-law. And so it was so wonderful. We all were away for 2-3 days and so on. So one of the people in the family, I won't name anyone, not here, in Ohio, who was visiting, is a Trump supporter. Which is, he was the only person in the whole family. There were like 25 people, and we were all saying, oh my God. And it was very interesting. So he was saying that, there are certain things about Trump that I don't like. Like, for example, he doesn't like this DACA. He says if people have been living here, they should be allowed. I don't like it. But you know, very interestingly enough, the thing about Trump that he doesn't like is just an aberration. Just one of those things that everybody does some bad things and good things and so on, but it reinforces his identification with Trump and his thinking and so on and so forth. So even an exception becomes a reinforcing thing. Because he says, okay, there are some problems with Trump's policy, but who doesn't have any problems? Everybody has a problem. We'll give it to him. He says, but I think the Mexican wall is very important. We need to really build it up and so on and so forth. So look at this. Just think about it. Here is our problem. Here is where we need to think about it. Where do we go from here to there? Our issue is that when truth is being told to us, we kind of slough it off. Oh, you know, the example of the Swapnavastha and so on. And Swamiji is such an experienced teacher. He meets all kinds of people. He says, I'm amazed that after listening to all that, he comes to me and he says, why are you wasting time talking about Swapnavastha and so on? Talk about Jagratavastha. And the thing is, you are viewing everything from the standpoint of Jagratavastha, when in fact you should be viewing things from the standpoint of the Atma, which means that your identification with a particular state needs to be severed, or at least needs to be loosened, if not severed. So similarly, Maheshanandji also said the same thing, that you find people of a political party who find a number of things that are wrong with the political party. But I'm a member of the political party. I can't give it up. This is just like saying, yes, there are problems of the Atma and so on, but Jagratavastha is really all I want to be concerned with. This is a very important point. So the abhimana, the identification, and my inability to part with it. He says, don't question that. That one I know what to do. But tell me how to get rid of the problems in it. That's all. And so this is tantamount to not really, you have to give up all identifications. When every identification is given up. So here the identification is annam, pranaha, manaha, buddhihi, anandascha iti panchate. So here, really speaking, annams. And so my body and identification with it. Anyway, I think there's some more examples, but I think we need to go ahead. Then another interesting word. This is something that we need to just dwell in on. So, annam, pranaha, manaha. So this is annamaya kosha, pranamaya kosha. So pranamaya kosha, just very briefly, we'll come back to it in some more detail. Pranamaya kosha means that I am alive. And again, the same thing. There is a need to do viveka between I am alive and I am. They are two different things. But what happens is, due to the aviveka, that I am alive and that I am are mixed up together. I don't see myself as not being alive. I don't even like to think about it. That means I'm dead. And so really, my estimation of who I am is I'm alive. Aviveka. Atma has nothing to do with whether you're alive or not. It is. So pranaha is another kosha. You're hung up on being alive. Then manaha, buddhi. Buddhi is the ultimate kosha. Buddhi means ahankara. This is me. This is the most difficult to resolve, most difficult to let go of. We'll go into this in more detail. I'm just giving you the list here, buddhi. And then anandascha. So anandascha here means the expressions of happiness. Different ways of, so moda and pramoda. We all studied this in the Taittiriya Upanishad. So different kinds of experiences. And so when I'm happy, see, that's another thing. When I'm happy, I like it, and I don't go any more than that. That's it. Don't talk to me anything more. I'm happy. But that happiness is also sullied happiness. Why? Because you know that I am happy doesn't last. And you know it ahead of time also. But right now you're enjoying it. He says, don't bother me. You're accelerating the removal of it by quarreling with me. And so just let me be happy. But then that happiness also is conditional. This is anatma. Anything that changes, which goes. And the atma is does not have a quality of being happy. It is the swarupa of being happy. It is the very nature of ananda, very nature of anantam. This is why the word anantam is used. Satyam jnanam anantam. Because the ultimate happiness is unlimitedness. And you get a taste of that in deep sleep. The happiness of deep sleep is better than any happiness in Jagrata Avastha. Because in Jagrata Avastha, all you have is relief, excitement of winning a lottery, something. But the taste of the peacefulness of deep sleep is much more subtle, very beautiful. And so this is anandaschaiti. Koshaha taihi avritaha. Avritaha means it is covered. It is covered. Then an interesting word is used, and I can't let go of it without explaining it, because this is the distinction between Tattvabodha and Panchadashi. It's a little more advanced. So in Panchakosha also, in the Tattvabodha also, you'll do the Panchakosha, Annam, Pranaha, etc. But here, we need to add something to it. And Swami Vidyaranya is very adept at it. He adds the word Vismritya. Just spend a couple of minutes just talking about Vismritya. Samsritim Vrajet. So, if we look at the English translation, the 5 sheaths or coverings are those of food, the vital air means all of the physiological functions, mind, the buddhi, which is intellect, and ananda, which is wrongly done as bliss. It is just joy. It's not like though bliss is something different. You have bliss in night time. It's the same thing. And Atma covered by them by forgetfulness goes into this samsara. By forgetting that. So this is an important word. Vidyaranya has used this, and Swami Maheshananji comments on it rather extensively. And so, really speaking, we should catch this word. What do you mean by forgetting it? Vismritihi. What do you mean by that? Why should I ask that question? Because forgetfulness means I knew it at one time, and now it is gone away from me. I don't know, just like, I knew, that happens to me all the time. If I don't see you for a long time, I forget your name. I really do. It's a bothersome thing. And so I knew your name at one time, but now I forget it. This is what is called vismritihi. But in the case of the Atma knowledge, how can that be the case? Well, it's a very valid doubt. Why? Because if I knew the Atma, then I'm free. Right? This is what the promise is, that once you know the Atma, then all your problems will disappear. Which is true. And so the word vismritihi means forgetfulness. And if I knew the Atma, then how can I forget it? Because I'm already free, I'm done. And that's even worse. Now you're telling me that by knowing the Atma, that also is a temporary phenomena. That means it can go back to being a samsari again. Is that what you're telling me? So this is the shanka. This is the doubt. Beautiful doubt. And here Swami Maheshananji points out that in Gita also, Arjuna is told, Arjuna says this, Nashto mohaha smriti labdha. This is one of the things. Then and also in another Upanishad, Sanat Kumara Vidya says smriti lambhe. So smriti lambha means recollection. Certainly you remember. How can it be the case? Beautiful explanation. Very important explanation. So for this, Swami Maheshananji says, please go to an earlier verse where it was discussed that if you remember, that the father and mother go to a concert where their kids are singing along with 20 other people. And the situation there is, it's not as though you did not listen to your child, because the child was not like mumbling, not saying anything. But he was also doing ucharana at the same level as everybody else. But you could not take out the individual sound of your child singing. It is not until the home where the parents can say, that was beautiful, I loved the song that you sang. Now can you please sing it for me just by yourself? In this case, the sound of the child's voice can be singular, and you can listen, you can hear it. Why is this example important? Because what it means is that the Atma is never unknown. It is never unknown. It is not as though I don't know myself. That's not true. But what happens is the Atma is known alongside of other factors, anatma factors, never independently. So as a result of this, the koshas So you know the Atma as along with the 5 koshas always. In fact, when you say, I am 5 foot 7 inches tall, I is very much there. Because, this is interesting. The word sharira, Annamaya kosha, is only referred to the body of a live person. The word for the body of a dead person is corpse. So when you say body, and so in English it is interchangeable. So you say, and this is done okay. Well, you say this such and such person died, and we kept the body for a couple of days. That means that the Atma had left and only the body was left. But when the person is alive, here the word sharira, it only refers to a live person. Otherwise, you will say murda or some other Sanskrit word which I don't recall at the moment. Shava. Because you won't say sharira. Sharira refers to, if you do the vyutpatti, the etymological meaning, one which is decaying right in front of you. While it is alive, it is decaying, changing. Technically, even a shava is also decaying, but without the presence of the Atma. Anyway, so going back to the topic of vrismritihi. So please remember this, why this word is there and what does it indicate? What it indicates is that it is never away from you, but unrecognized because it is always mixed up with the koshas. This is the thing that is important. It's not as though the Atma was not there and all of a sudden it comes. It's always been there. In fact, you have always been free. You've always been timeless. But the way you look at it is due to aviveka, through the koshas. Beautiful. This is the advanced part of the introduction. So this word is very important in that sense. Vismritihi. He gives some more examples through this Dakshinamurti Stotram. Rahu grasta divankarendu sadishaha maya samachchadanat. And so here he says Rahu, which is the graha, which covers the sun. It is not something independent. It is in fact the sun alone is. And so for example, all that happens is that the sun is there during the whole day, but not clearly visible. So the clarity of the sun is like seeing the Atma by itself without the koshas. When will we see the Atma without the kosha? This will come later on. But anyway, that's the idea. So let's continue. We still have some more time. So let's continue on with number 34, which I think we have already pronounced. So number 34. Syat panchakrita pute bhutothaha dehaha sthulo anna samyakaha lingetu rajasahi pranaihi pranaha karmendriyai saha. So he says that simply now explains the constituents of the koshas. Constituents of the koshas. Remarkable remarkable creation by Ishvara. So the interesting thing is that the 5 basic elements always remain the same, but the way they express themselves create the differences between Sthula Sharira and Sukshma Sharira. That's it. It's not as though the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body, is made out of some unique elements that are not there. It's the same elements, but they have 3 kinds of expressions. So one is Sthula Panchikrita Bhutebhyaha, one is Rajasaihi, and one is Pranaha and Karmendriyasaha. Anyway, we'll go into that. So then, Panchikrita Bhutothaha. So the gross body, which is born out of the 5 gross elements, which have been gone through Panchikrita, which we have done before, if you recall. Panchikarana means that the grossification of that. Remember that? So we keep 4, half of the same, and the other 4 are recombined with the others. That is the Panchikaranam. So the Panchikrita Bhutebhyaha creates the Sthula Deha. And it is called Anna Samyakaha. So it is a direct result of eating food. It's all I call the food sheath also, Annamaya Kosha. Then Lingam is the Pranaha. Pranaha is combined with the Karmendriyas. So the 5 Karmendriyas along with the 5 Pranas are called Linga Sharira. And it is the result of the Rajasa Amsha of the Pancha Mahabhuta. Remember, so there is Sattvika Amsha, Rajasa Amsha, and Tamasika Amsha. So the Tamasika Amsha is the Annamaya Kosha. Then the Rajasa and Amsha is the Prana plus the 5 organs of action. Because the Prana gives you the ability to act, to do something, to go, to grasp, being alive in doing so. So that is the Karmendriyasa. Then number 35, which is new, did we read that? Yeah. Satvikaihi dhihi indriyaihi sa akam, sakam is a single word, sakam vimarshatma manomayaha taihi eva sakam vijnanamayaha dhihi nischayatmika. So now the mind along with the sense organs, which are the effects of the Sattvika Amsha, is called Manomaya Kosha. And so the Manomaya Kosha is, it's exactly the same when you say, I am thinking. This is my view. I believe. You don't say, I know. I believe. I am thinking. This is called Manomaya Kosha. That also is due to the aviveka of the Atma and the Kosha. And then a small difference in the case of Vijnanamaya Koshaha, Dhihi Nischayatmika. So Nischayatmika means a definite knowledge. Definite knowledge. And this is where when you know something, when you say, do you know English? I know it. It is not I think I do, I know it. This is called Nischayatmika. And here, with respect to the error on the Atma, Nischayatmika means I know I am an alive person. How do you know it? Well, I can touch, it's me. That's me. And if somebody says, no, that's not who you are, you will say, well, I don't have any time to talk to you, okay? You need to go to some mental assignment. I know what I am, who I am. Nischayatmika. buddhi. So let's give it some time for some question answer. So I'll stop here, and then we will continue on this analysis of the Panchakosha, and then some aspects of the Vivekaha also that we will do. And perhaps we will at the end of this maybe do a meditation also to sort of summarize all the things. So that we will do maybe hopefully next week. We'll see. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Any questions? So one thing I wrote to a few of you, but I'm thinking that on Saturday mornings we will do a half hour of chanting before the class. That's only on Saturday mornings, not on Tuesday. And we will chant some shlokas to Dakshinamurti and perhaps do the Ashtotra Namavali, 108 names, so all in about less than half hour, and not a complete puja per se. So I'll ask this question actually to the Saturday morning people, but the question in my mind is, would you prefer the puja to be from 8 to 8:30 and then the class? Because now we have more flexibility of timing. Or can we do it at 7:30 to 8, then start the Mandukya class? And so if we can just think about it, close your eyes and see, can you get up that much earlier, or would you prefer to just start at 8? And let me see a show of hands. 8 o'clock people, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 7:30 people, raise your hands. 2.
7:30 means.
Okay, you guys come here at 7:30. So we'll start, I think, most probably, I'll ask this again. This next week we'll continue without the puja. But the following week we will have a puja starting at 8 o'clock.
Could we do like chanting and meditation, like maybe 1 week do chanting, 1 week do meditation?
Yeah, it's a good idea. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Okay, all right. Come and later.
Change your mind.
That's fine. It's okay. That much more to sleep.
It won't matter.
It does.
You can combine it out of
You were coming at 7:30, weren't you?
Make it 7:45 average.
No bargaining, come on.
Yeah, we'll start at 8.
Yeah,
I think
it's
that's
Yeah,
fine.
it's
8
fine.
o'clock is
Yeah.
fine too.
Especially in the winter time.
It's true.
So, but that's an interesting idea. Let me think about that. Yeah. So, and I'm thinking, remember I also wrote to you, maybe not to the